right, guys, welcome back for another little episode of our senior send-off. Today, I've got with me Mr. Isaac, and I'm going to try to get that last name right. It's always a tough one whenever we're at Jeffco, and it comes over the loudspeaker. VanWestreinen?
VanWestreinen.
Reinen. Wow, I've been pronouncing it wrong all along, and you know what? I'm going to roll with it. I'm sure it's been butchered way worse.
Yeah.
Westreinen. I guess it is an I before an E. Anyways. So Isaac, let's kind of jump into this. Kind of the first question I'd like to start off with is kind of give people a little bit of basis of where do you go to school right now?
I am homeschooled, but I run for Conifer High School.
So how has that been for you the last 4 years? You know, the whole concept of us sitting down and talking through this senior year is really to kind of look back at the last 4. Do you feel like, have you enjoyed your experience as being homeschooled?
Yeah, I have. Just from a running standpoint, I feel like it's allowed me to have a lot more recovery time because I don't have to worry about anything I'm doing at school.
Yeah,
so that's been nice.
You get to kind of run when you feel good. You don't have to. Yeah, that's kind of nice. You kind of get the flexibility of that. You know, I think in the past, you know, we've sat down. You're part of our Peak Elite team. Sometimes it's been, I think, hard for you. I think maybe one of the downsides, if there was one, is that you only really have the track team as part of your kind of social network, at least a little bit. So finding that, I think, has been, you know, maybe a tough road to sow the last 4 years, or has it been pretty easy for you to make friends?
A little bit. I do go to a co-op every Monday in Arvada, so I get some social connections there.
How was that for you over COVID? Was that pretty rough, or was that still something you kind of kept in line?
At the very beginning of COVID, like spring of my sophomore year, we did have to go online, but other than that, I've been in person the whole time.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah. That's pretty nice. And you live up in Conifer, so to give people that are watching that maybe don't know, Conifer's at least a 30-minute drive from here up the hill. And what's the elevation up there?
About 8,200 feet.
So you're doing high elevation work.
Yes.
For you, you know, and nothing is flat up there too. That's what I've learned about Conifer. Nothing's flat. So he's good at the hills. So let's take a step back. I kind of want to understand, when did you start running? I feel like we've actually never had this conversation. When did you first start?
Yeah. So I did community 5Ks growing up, starting when I was probably 7 or 8.
Okay.
And I just trained for a couple weeks before that, just run like 2 miles a couple times a week. And then I did cross country in 8th grade.
Okay.
And I liked that, but I was a baseball player. So I decided I was going to do cross country in the fall and baseball in the spring. And then I did my first year of cross country in high school.
Okay.
And decided I was just going to keep doing that.
And just kind of became your thing?
Yeah.
So, you know, both you and Bryce have a background in baseball, which I found to be funny because I can't imagine either of you playing baseball now. What was the thing that like hooked you in? Like what about running was like, oh, this is way better than baseball?
Everything just kind of clicked for me. Like I didn't really have to put in a ton of effort, and I kept cutting my PR down. I think I got about 3 or 4 minutes faster across my freshman year. And also the community is just so much better. Like baseball is kind of toxic, and I've never found that with running. Yeah,
I feel like, you know, as much as running is, you know, we all like the same thing. I guess that's all sports, but I feel like we're all a little bit of misfits, you know, and I think a good band of misfits, you can't break them up too hard. So let's think here. So got into running, and what was your freshman 5K time? Do you remember what you started off at?
My first race was 21:27, and then I got it down to a 19:22
nice.
By the end.
And what did you close out your senior year cross country season in?
16:07.
Okay, so a solid 5 minutes over 4 years is pretty darn good. And you didn't have to start at 28 to do that, so
yeah,
that's pretty cool. And that was at Running Lane, right? That's a great course. I really enjoy that one. So let's think back, you know, maybe to those early years of running. What is your earliest memory as a runner? What do you remember as, like, maybe it was the thing that hooked you, or what was your earliest memory as a runner?
One of my earliest for sure is running around a lake in our neighborhood in Minnesota with my dad, and we got back, and his watch said that all of my mile splits were within about 3 or 4 seconds of each other.
Nice.
So that kind of surprised me that at like 7 or 8 years old, I could even split that well.
And so you said your neighborhood, when did you move to Conifer?
When I was 11, I think.
Okay. So you've done all of your high school running here
Yeah.
Okay. So would you say that, you said you did that run with your dad, is that who got you into running, or is it just kind of the sport existed there, so it got you into running?
It was more my mom who got me into running.
Really?
Because she is the one who runs more now.
Okay. What was it? Was it just getting down to a 5K that you guys did it together and it was kind of a little family thing? Because I know your sister runs now too.
Yeah.
It's kind of a whole family affair. What started it?
I think that was just like the next sport to try.
Okay.
I played basically everything except for lacrosse growing up.
Okay. Yeah. See, for me, I was the kid that did like ice skating and soccer. It didn't hit. Like finally I didn't find running actually until after college, believe it or not. So I did wrestling all through high school and things. So I think this is I think the hardest question that I ask in the whole thing. And it's the middle question is, what do you love most about running?
I love just being out there and having time to think. Like at Conifer, we only have about 8 distance runners. So there's not like we will do easy runs together as much as we can, but there's a lot of days where I end up being by myself, which for workouts isn't great because I don't have people to push me and stuff like that. But for easy runs, it just gives me a lot of time to think through things that I've been working on.
Yeah.
And then downhill trail running is just the best feeling in the world.
It is.
That's my favorite part of running by far.
It's like flying. Do you think you'll continue doing a lot of trail running after the next couple of years?
Once I get out of college, yeah, but there's not a whole lot of trails in Nebraska.
Not a ton. We'll get to Nebraska here in a little bit. But yeah, I'll have to agree with you. Downhill running is one of my favorite things. Coming down Lookout the other day, despite how much my legs were hurting me, I was like, I still love this. This is so cool. So I want to dive into, we talked about what you love most. I kind of want to understand now, what was the hardest part about running for the last 4 years?
I think probably the last like year and a half has really pushed me to my limits with running. Like, I don't know exactly what it was, but starting like middle of my junior year cross country season, I just wasn't getting any faster, and I knew I had more in me, but I just couldn't find it.
And was that a really frustrating place to be? Just felt like you couldn't turn it on, or just felt like it was untapped? Like what was your biggest feeling?
I just get like 3/4 the way through the race and then fall apart. Like the one specific time I'm thinking of is I was trying to qualify for state at St. Vrain in the 2 mile last year, and I was on pace for a 9:40 through 6 laps, which would have qualified me for state. And then on my 7th lap, I ran an 88. And to this day, I don't know what happened. Like, I just didn't have it when it came down to it.
Yeah. And so was that was that something that made you kind of think like, oh man, do I really love running? Was it kind of a sticking place for you that you're like, oh man, is my love for this gone?
Yeah, I definitely felt some of that. And then over the summer, I definitely got my love back. And then the beginning of cross country, I was just not racing well, and I started struggling with that again.
What do you feel like changed that for you? You said you kind of found your love for running again over the summer. Was it just taking the pressure off and the expectation of I have to perform in races, or was it more like you were just getting out and doing it because you enjoyed it?
It was a mixture of both. Partially it was that I wasn't racing at all, so I was just going out and training is my favorite part of running. Like, racing is fun, but I love going out running up and down mountains every day.
Right. So you love to train more than you love to race at times.
Yeah.
And you've been known to put in some pretty good high mileage weeks. What was your biggest week last summer?
Last summer was about 65.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, I couldn't get up a ton just because track was so late. And then I had to take a little longer break because of wisdom teeth removal and then stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So cross country kind of came through and you were able to kind of make some steps at least towards the end of your senior season and feel like you're able to kind of capitalize on that.
Yeah.
How do you feel like things are going for you so far this season? We're halfway through the track season, sitting down and doing this.
Yeah. It hasn't been exactly what I've wanted. I've been having some like pacing issues with races and zoning out and that kind of thing, but it's definitely a lot better than last season.
Good. So let's take a look here. And I think this would be the hard question number 2. If you think back to Isaac, I would say little Isaac, but I don't know if you were ever short little Isaac. You're pretty tall. How tall are you?
6'3".
Okay, 6'3". So maybe the 5'3" Isaac, that 7-year-old version of you. What's the message that you wish you could share with that kid that just went out for that run and came back and had those great splits that you wish you're like, hey, just whatever it might be, what is the advice that you wish you could give to the younger version of yourself?
Like, I guess just this is a lifelong thing.
Yeah.
Like if you'd told even freshman Isaac that he'd be running in college on basically a full ride, I wouldn't believe you.
That's pretty cool. And why is that? Why do you feel like the freshman version of you it wasn't something that seemed possible?
Yeah. Yeah. I just didn't understand how, like, the improvements that you can see over 4 years.
Yeah. And that you can actually be valuable to a school and be something I think that's such a cool thing. Because I think so many freshmen that start off in this sport, they're just like, I like to run. And I love that. And I think that's actually the foundational part of this sport that we can't lose is it has to be fun. As soon as it stops becoming fun or you're not in an environment where you enjoy the people, it starts to really become work. And not that you can't do something that's work, right? Like, you're going to go on and run in college. And that goes up a whole nother level. But from the freshman version of yourself, what do you feel like have been your biggest improvements personally? Like, where do you feel like your biggest areas of growth have been?
Even more so than running has just been in developing as a person. Like I used to be, because I was homeschooled, especially before we moved here, I really didn't have anywhere that I could meet people. So I didn't really talk to people at all. Like my first practice, I was kind of just avoiding everybody. I didn't want to try to start conversations. And now I've like come out of my shell a lot and I can go up and talk to people that I've never met before.
Yeah. I feel like I watched that even change from the time that you started with our team on the Peak Elite side. Like I remember those first couple practices, I was like, all right, is Isaac going to talk to anybody? And then like, once you got into it, you'd kind of found your niche with that group. And I feel like those guys have definitely been a big part of your growth, at least the last 6 months.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's really cool to see. And that's what I love about being able to have a team that is diverse, right? It's not your school team. So you get to meet all these other people that are kind of in a different network. But then when you show up to a race, it's this like, oh, it's kind of like a little family reunion. Like you get to go see some people, you get to cheer them on. It's always exciting. Mm-hmm. So let's think about this. What would you say to someone about your experience here at Peak? Because you actually kind of joined our team and you just kind of inserted yourself at the highest level. You know, we had you join our team, or at least we offered you a position on our team, on our Peak Elite team. And I think really the recommendation of both Bryce and Henry. And we said, hey, they're like, Isaac might be the perfect fit inside this group. And to kind of give people background that don't know, our Peak Elite team is, I think we're 10, maybe 11 right now, a pretty small little tight-knit group. And these are, athletes that are performing at kind of what we have as a standard. And this is really about trying to pull together. Sorry, there's mirrors behind us. It's a mirrored glass. It totally threw me off. I'll restart the question here. So Isaac, what would you say to someone about your experience here at Peak?
Peak has definitely helped me get out of that like rut with training, because I was watching two people on my team who I'd been way faster than for years, and then all of a sudden they were getting close to me and passing me, and I was just having a really tough time like coming to terms with the fact that I wasn't the fastest anymore.
Yeah.
And I think I hadn't even really thought about switching and doing club over the winter. But then after regionals, Bryce and Henry were saying that I should, so I looked into it. And then I think the change of scenery just really helped me. I was in a different workout, different training philosophy.
Yeah. It was really interesting to, because I think I know who you're speaking to on your team. And I think that's one of the hardest things any athlete has to go through in their arc as an athlete. Because it's a necessary part of, I think, being on any team, is that if you're the fastest person on a team, let's say you go to Midland next year and you're the fastest guy and then someone comes in, it's a total shock to your system, because you start to say, oh my gosh, am I not good anymore? Right? We really start to question a lot about ourselves, and it can be a big spiral.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it's been a really positive experience here for you, because I think the same. I think, I will never sit on the other end of a table from someone and say, I know how to do this the best. I really like to try to take an approach, and I think something that you warmed up to pretty quickly, although, right, it takes trust, is, hey, we're going to do things a little bit differently than you've been doing them. And so I appreciate your trust so much in saying, I'm going to see what happens here. And it happened to get results, right? It got us some good results. So I'm excited to see. We can talk pacing after this. But I'm excited to see kind of where your season kind of shapes up over the next couple weeks. We're getting close to the end here. I like this question a lot because it's able to kind of bring something around, whether it's for Conifer or with the people that you've been with. Do you have any big memories to share about your experience over the last 4 years? Like anything that you're like, oh man, this was the best moment?
Definitely the first one that comes to mind was regionals of last year. We lost a lot of our varsity team the year before and had nobody who was expected to come in. And then we started running fast times over the season, and we're seeded third going into regionals. And then we all just had amazing races at that race and ended up winning. And I still remember my coach doing the math in his head, figuring out that there was no way that anyone else was going to beat us, and he just came sprinting down the hill.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. I love that, just when you have those moments where you're the underdog, right? The underdog story is a hard one to beat, and I really love that.
And that was our first regional championship by any sports team in Conifer history.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So you get to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So last question, I want to talk about kind of where we're going. Where are you headed this fall? We can see it right here, but you want to share with the people?
Yeah, I'll be running at Midland University in Fremont, Nebraska.
What called you to Midland?
There's one kid who ran for Green Mountain last year who's going there now. He's a freshman. And so I knew he was going somewhere in Nebraska, but I wasn't sure exactly where. And then they weren't even on my college list. I was thinking I would be going to school back in Minnesota because I had 3 or 4 schools out there that I really liked. But I got a postcard from the coach, filled out the recruit questionnaire. He started talking to me. I got a visit scheduled, and then I went there and just really fit in with the team and the school.
That's awesome. It's a good fit on both ends, huh?
Yeah.
So are they D1, D2, D3 school?
They are an NAIA school.
NAIA, okay. So for you, NAIA, is that a place where you're like, I feel really comfortable getting in there? Do you feel like that's the right fit for what you want to do? Does it allow you to kind of balance academics as well as the sports?
Yeah. I was mostly looking at D2 schools just because it's less of a focus on athletics.
Yeah, you got it. So when it comes to the athletic side of this, a lot of people would be like, oh, it's an NAIA school. I don't know if I want to go, right? I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on that D1. When we think about it, for anybody that's listening, because I hope the people that watch this and listen to this aren't seniors. I hope that the people that are there, from your standpoint, it's about the people, it's about the place, it's about the school, and being able to feel like you fit in on a team more so than the fact that it's, a D1, an NAIA, JUCO, any of those things. Is it really about fit?
Yeah. And something that I'm really looking forward to is that Midland placed, it was either 3rd or 5th at indoor nationals this year for NAIA and didn't have a single point scored by distance runners.
Hey.
So I'm excited to go in and like build a culture that'll have them competing.
Yeah. So you kind of get to kind of almost start that off and kind of build that out in a way. You kind of get to be that first recruit. That's pretty cool. So what are you planning on studying?
Exercise science.
Hey, there we go.
Yep. And I'll be going to physical therapy school after I graduate.
Excellent. And so just going to kind of keep working with runners?
Yeah.
Figure out how to fix the broken ones?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Isaac, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me today.
Yeah, thank you.